they're gone. Go ahead, Daisy.
Okay, and so goal setting or having a goal will also help to raise the level of self-esteem. And a goal, as you all know, is something you want to accomplish. But you can't set a goal if you don't know what you want. That's why I asked you on Monday, what do you want? Not what other people want for you, but what do you want for yourself? And until you have an idea of what you want, you cannot set a goal that's achievable. Now, a lot of times in face-to-face, I ask people a lot, what do you want? And I get stuff like, I want to be successful. Well, success means different things for different people. So if your goal is I want to be successful, what is that? That's not clear. That's not specific. A want has to be clear and specific. For example, I want a job as a claims examiner. That's clear, that's specific. And that's important, because if I know, if you know you want to be a claim examiner, you can do research on that profession. You can find out everything you need to know, or things you need to know. You can find people who are doing that. So it's very important to be clear and specific when looking at what you want. Now, goals fall into 3 categories. You can have a short-term goal, which is something you want to accomplish within a year. For example, I have a YouTube channel. I wanted to get at least 100 subscribers in 3 months. That was clear. That was specific. That was short-term in 3 months. You can also have long-term goals, 1 to 5 years. And then you can have lifetime goals, what you want to accomplish in your life. A lifetime goal for me was I wanted to write a book at some point in my life. So I have written 2 books. You get the idea? So they're short-term, long-term, or lifetime, or short-term, medium, and long-term. There are numerous benefits for setting goals. The first one that stands out for me is they keep you focused. If I knew, which I did, I wanted 100 subscribers, I can keep focused. What do I need to do to get 100 subscribers? I can keep focused on that. They keep you focused. Goals also give you a sense of direction. Where are you going? How do you get from point A to point B? Goals help you increase the chances of getting what you want. My goal for my book, for this one, I want to be able, my goal in a year, want to be able to sell 100 books a month. That's the goal. So it's clear, it's specific. So it gives it to my chance of getting there is clearer, because I know what I'm shooting for. And so I can make a plan on what I need to do to sell 100 books a month. Is this making sense? Yeah. Okay. When you don't set goals, there are consequences. And by the way, did you know that most people do not set goals? They just do. Whatever is there, they just do. And there are serious consequences. Number one, you don't get what you want. You flounder. Your life gets out of control. And you just go from day to day, making do. Numerous consequences. And even though we know that goals are important, we know the consequences. As I said, most people do not set goals. Only 5% of the population sets goals. Only 5%. And so the question becomes why? Why? Some people don't set goals because They're not important. It's just something that they don't do. Other people don't set goals, because I had one of them to tell me, she's very successful. And she said, Daisy, I just never thought about it. You know, I've done all right without them. She said, I've done fine without them. And she had done fine without them. And I think that one of the reasons she did so well without them is she grew up in a very successful household. Her mother and father were very high earners. It was just assumed. It was not even a question as to whether she would go to college or have what she wanted, because she's always had. She grew up in the environment. So she had been successful without them. But most of us didn't grow up in that kind of environment. So we got to do something. And then another reason people don't set goals, which is why I didn't set goals, is nobody ever talked about them. Where I grew up, nobody ever mentioned setting a goal. You just worked. It didn't matter whether you liked your job or not. You just worked. You don't work for whether you like the job. You work for the money. And then I didn't set goals too, because I didn't know how. A lot of times we don't know how. We hear it, but how do you do it? And that's why on the handout, I have some guidelines for setting goals. The first guideline, when you decide what you want, what do you want? Write it down. That's why I want you to just sit down and write out all the things you want. Be clear and specific. Don't say things like, I want to be happy. That's not clear. It's not specific. And it does not take any special talent to be happy. So when you say, I want to be successful, what is that? Doing what? It has to be clear and specific. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be something small, very small. It must be realistic and attainable based on where you are now. In terms of the goal being attainable and realistic, I think that if the goal was not realistic and attainable, you would not have thought about it in the first place. I think that if you think it, you can have it, but it has to be clear and specific. And I can't stress that enough. It must be specific and measurable. How do you know you've gotten there? 100 subscribers. I know I've gotten there because I can see I have 100 subscribers. It must have a target date. By when? The goal is to specify two things, and two things only. What you want and by when. Doesn't matter how. Don't even think how, because a lot of times you don't know how. All you want is what you want and by when. It must be flexible. You can change your mind. It must be yours. Not what other people want for you, but what do you want for yourself? What do you want? And the last guideline for me, you must be able to see the end results. You got to see it. You got to close your eyes and see it. If the goal is to get your AA degree, you've got to see yourself with that piece of paper in your hand. Those are the basic guidelines. Some people use a technique referred to as the SMART technique, S-M-A-R-T. You've probably heard that one a lot. SMART, specific. M is measurable. A, attainable. R, realistic. T, timely. Must have a time period. And if you don't reach the goal by that time period, you can change the date. You can change your mind. You can even decide you don't want that goal at all. That's why they are flexible. Now, there are key areas for setting goals, and this is on the handout. You can have career goals, a job, a business. You can have financial or money goals to save $100 a month by such and such day, beginning today. You can have health fitness goals to lose 10 pounds by such and such time. You can have a personal growth goal, which can be intangible, to project a positive attitude every day or to smile more, personal. You can have spiritual goals, and you can have relationship goals to evaluate the quality of my inner circle by such and such day, to make sure I have positive, happy people in my inner circle beginning such and such day. So those are the key areas. Now, in writing the goals, if you have your handout, I'm going to read this one, and then you just think about it. And Marlon, you can answer if you want. Is this a good goal? To be successful by the year 2023. Is that valid? Is that a good one?
What does everybody think?
To be successful by the year 2023.
Well, I hear a date there, but what does successful mean? So
exactly.
Timely, but not specific.
Exactly. You gotta be specific. What does success look like to you? Does it look like a job earning $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year by 2023? What does it look like? The second one, to make more money by the end of the year.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one? Well, again, I hear a date on that one, and more means more than I'm making now, but it really isn't very specific.
That's right, because if you're making $7 an hour and you get 50 cents more, that's more, right? Or you get a penny more. So more is not specific. To make $30,000 by the end of the year would be a good goal. It's clear, it's specific. How about this one? To give my children a college education.
I'm thinking, as I think about that, it is specific, but there's no time limit to it necessarily. So I'm not sure.
Well, actually, you can't give anybody a college education. You can't set goals for other people. That goal is not yours. It's not specific. You can't set goals for other people. So, because what if they don't want to go to college? So that one is not good at all. How about this one? To lose 10 pounds within the next 3 months by exercising at least 20 minutes every day.
Well, I think you just hit all the targets right there. We've got 10 pounds is specific, we've got the time, and we've got how. So I think that sounds like a good goal.
Okay, and the goal is to specify 2 things only: what you want and by when. So what threw this one off was the how. Because you will not lose 10 pounds by exercising at least 20 minutes every day unless you cut out how you're eating. Okay. So that's what threw it off. Had I stopped it at to lose 10 pounds within the next 3 months, that would have been a great one. But when I threw that other one in, not attainable. Because you got to do more than that. How about the last one? To live and work in a stress-free environment within 6 months.
Well, that's what you want in a time limit. But my question would be, is what does stress-free mean?
Exactly. Okay. It's unrealistic. Because where are stress-free people?
I mean,
stress-free people are dead. everything you do causes stress. Everything. When you blink your eye, everything. So if you are stress-free, you are 6 feet under. Make sense? And so the next one I have, and you can work on this one in your extra free time. Just think about, what do you want? And the worksheet will look like this. You just write down all the things you want. And then once you decide, pick out 3. Or pick one, select one in every other areas. And you write it down. Goals usually begin with the word to lose 10 pounds by January of 21. They begin, and write it down, the next page, write your goal. And then once you set the goal, you start asking how. How? If my goal is to get a job as a claims examiner by such and such day, the question, how? And each time you ask how. What am I going to do? Well, if that was my goal, I would first research claims examiners by such and such date. Find out what qualifications do I need by such and such date. Find out, one of my action steps may be to research who hires claims examiners, what companies by such and such date. And you start building an action plan. Now, if you set a goal and you have no idea as to how you're going to reach it, no idea on the action steps, I would say on every goal, at the top ought to be your research. To learn as much about that profession or that situation as you can. And that would be the first thing on my list. The second thing on my list, if I don't do anything else, I would say, then start visualizing it, picture it. Every day, I would daydream about it. Every day, I would daydream about it. I would see myself. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question. If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, this is where I get tripped up, because I think before I can set a goal, I have to know all of this stuff. So what I'm hearing you say is set the goal and then do the research and then visualize it. And because we're being flexible, maybe I'm too short of a time frame on it. Maybe I need to change the time frame.
Exactly.
But it's okay to set a goal without necessarily knowing all the steps.
Exactly. It's like me and my YouTube channel. I had no idea. I didn't even know how to do a YouTube video. But when I decided that's what I wanted to do, I spent hours researching how to set up a YouTube channel, how to make YouTube videos. Hours. I spent hours. And I want to be the diva of cheer videos, cheer Zumba videos. So I picture myself sitting in my chair. I can see myself. And initially it took me hours to do a video. And it still does. But now I'll take a day and I'll just shoot videos. And send a couple of them to YouTube unlisted. So that when I try to release, I release every 3 to 4 weeks. And now I've gotten where I already have them in the queue. So that in 3 weeks, I look down and say, I released this one 33 weeks ago. I need to release. And I just hit a button, pick it from unlisted to public. But I had to learn how to do that. So I set the goal. And then you think about it and stuff starts coming to you. It is amazing how you even run into people who are doing what you want to do to get ideas on what you ought to do. So you're absolutely, and that's why it's so important to remember you only need 2 things, what you want and by when, and if you can see it, if you can see yourself doing it, then you can make it happen. And when it comes to goal setting, there are barriers, and that's some things that get in the way. On the handout on page 5, I listed some of the barriers to goal achievement. And I think they're all barriers that get in the way. But the bottom line is that many of these barriers can be overcome. But the number one barrier for many, many people is self-esteem, a self-confidence. That gets in the way because it impacts everything you do. But if you have the self-esteem and the self-confidence, there are other barriers like family commitments. If you are a single mother, a single parent, and you work, you know, that's a family commitment that for most people comes first. That's why values are important, to know what's important to you. And you want to set goals that are consistent with what you value. It's easier if it's consistent with what's important to you. But other things get in the way. You may find that you don't have the skills. There's a skill deficit. Of course, when I first started teaching, I had a skills deficit. So I had to learn, I had to practice. I listened to music over and over and over and over again. When I decide to do a song, a new song, usually they're in Spanish. I don't speak a word of Spanish except C. So what I would do, first I download the song in English. And then I download the Spanish version of it. So I have my English version and my Spanish version. And I sit and I listen to the music over and over and over and over again. And that's how I start developing the choreography based on what the person is saying. And if the person is saying whatever in Spanish, I have to figure out what it means in English. Now, some people don't do it that way, but that's how I have to do it to overcome the skills deficit. Just some little extra work that I do. You may find that you can't reach your goal because there's a lack of education. And again, you don't have to go to school. You can read, you can research, you can find almost anything you want online. And you can find a YouTube video on almost everything you want. That's how I learned. That's how I learned how to do videos, YouTube. That's how I learned how to use Zoom. That's how I learned how to set up a YouTube channel, videos. And so you have to look at what's getting in your way. What barriers do you encounter? And are they internal, self-esteem, self-confidence, guilt, or are they external? Family commitment, finances, and even with finances, you can overcome. The bottom line, if when it's something that you really, really want, you are the only person who can keep you from getting it. May take a long time. It may take some extra work, but you are the only person who can keep you from reaching your goals. That's why it's so important to recognize the barriers. With me and my Zumba, it was whether I was willing to put in the time. With me and my books, whether I'm willing to put in the time. And it does take a lot of time. I am heavily into social media, specifically Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. It takes me hours to learn this stuff. And when you are trying to promote yourself, as I'm doing, I have to learn how to do that. I have to learn how to post. So I had to learn about Canva, C-A-N-V-A, how to make video and Instagram posts, how to make Instagram and Facebook posts using Canva. All of that takes hours and hours and hours. So the thing is, are you willing to put in the time and the energy to get where you want to go? And only you can answer that. Now, when it comes to reaching goals, there is a formula that I use. And the first thing I say is goal achievement begins in your thoughts. You got to think about it. Think about it. Just think about it all the time. Begins in your thoughts. Thoughts are things. You must have a clearly defined goal. And of course, you must be flexible. You must have, even though I say must have, but you can get away with not having a detailed action plan, but it helps if you have a detailed action plan. Little steps, little steps. You must desire it. It must become something you truly want. It must become like an obsession with you. An obsession is not a dirty word. It simply means you are preoccupied with an idea that is possible. As I told you all on Monday, I think I must have been the oldest Zumba instructor licensed at 71 years old. But I had to do something. I had to believe I could do this, which brings me to the next step. You have to believe that you can do. I had to believe that this old body could move.
Yeah.
And not care what I look like or how, if I'm doing it right, but I had to believe that I could do this, and I did. And then the next thing you have to do, you have to affirm declarations, affirmations. As we talked about on Monday, the key way to building self-esteem is to declare, I am healthy, I am happy, I'm successful. I know what I want. I go after what I want. I am committed. Those are your affirmations or declarations, and you got to see it. That's use your imagination to create what you want, to see it. The next thing you have to do for me, you have to expect to get it. You have to expect it. Sometimes we set goals, not even expecting to get what we want. We think it's impossible, and we don't dream it. And even though I teach goal setting, there are times when I didn't go after stuff because I just thought it's just too hard. And then finally, it takes commitment and hard work. You just keep working at it. Goals are achievable. They help you. They guide you. They keep you focused. They build self-esteem. And so I want to challenge you to start with, though, thinking clearly about what it is you want out of life. Career-wise, health-wise, relationship, and all the areas that I've mentioned. What do you really want? And then sit down and put it in writing. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Are there any questions or comments?
Does anyone have any questions? I think my biggest question that I had, Daisy, was that, what I asked you about, is it okay to set a goal if you don't know how, if you don't know all the steps that it's going to take? I think that's my biggest hang up. And like what you said, we don't expect to get it. It's something
Right.
we dream about, something that we want. But
Right.
I really appreciated that it's okay to set a goal if you don't already know what it's going to take.
Right, exactly. All you want to know is what you want.
Yeah.
And the other thing you want to do is when you set goals, be careful who you tell it to. Because sometimes you'll tell people what you want and say, oh girl, you can't do that. It's like with my Zumba, my friends, oh girl, you're too old to do that.
Well,
So
that's
you
like what you were saying last week about self-esteem. We need to manage the relationships that have a negative impact on us and enhance
exactly.
the ones that have a positive impact.
Exactly, exactly. And you just have to be really careful about who you allow into your inner circle. Because not everyone is healthy enough to have a front row seat in your life. And if you want to go places, if there are things that you want to do, you got to start hanging out with people. Of course, you can't hang out now, but you got to communicate with people who are doing what you want to do. And even though we don't socialize as much now because of COVID-19, you can connect with these people via social media. People, there are groups that you can affiliate with, like me and my Zumba. People, like-minded people. And when there's something that you really want, you have to affiliate. And it doesn't have to be in person, with like-minded people. And that's where you get your motivation from. Those are the people that you can tell what to tell, what confide in terms of what you want. But just be careful who you go out and tell it to, because some people don't believe in you. They don't believe in themselves, and they don't believe in you, and they try to hold you back.